Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 8, which is called The Dream's Revelation. And this was a really fun episode. There were little bits of it that felt like, okay, what exactly are you doing here? Mainly I think the stuff related to that movie they went to see and how Boruto then applied that when he realized that he actually had a really unique power and a destiny. That felt a little bit like, oh, you're kind of wasting time a bit here. But otherwise, I really like that this episode just kind of really presented to us that they're actually now going to explore, what is Boruto's power. In that, the whole idea of this episode is basically that he really needs to figure out what exactly this thing is that he has to control it better, because he knows that he wants to actually tackle what's happening in the village himself. So the obvious thing is, your mom is basically, the princess of the Hyuga clan. Why don't you ask her if it's the Byakugan, and so on. And he's initially not really too happy about that, because the implication is that he will be referred to Hiyashi, his grandfather, and he seems to set up that Hiyashi's really harsh and really mean, and this isn't gonna go well if he's brought in, to humorous effect once they get to that point. But after that, I like what they do is that they bring Naruto kind of back home. That he's been overworking himself. He comes home, and you get this kind of Hyuga family kind of interaction kind of thing where Hinata's in this episode a little bit more. Himawari gets a bit more of a focus here. And you get just kind of more family dynamic stuff at home, where you get to see a lot of Boruto in this episode, referring to how kind of goofy Naruto is, basically, as we know him, having watched the entire Naruto Shippuden run. We know that he's a bit of an idiot at times, and Boruto only seeing the kind of home side of Naruto, not really seeing the hero, amazing shinobi side of him, just sees him as a bit of an idiot, basically. And I like how there's the initial joke of he basically says, "Oh, I've awakened this new power," and Naruto's like, "Have you stole the scroll of sealing?" And they make the joke that Naruto is actually the one who did that, and he's like, "Yeah, that person was a real criminal, wasn't he?" So they do that, but then I think that it takes an interesting kind of take on things, in that no one really believes Boruto about when he says that he's awakened his Byakugan. In that they immediately kind of clarify to us that, oh, Himawari is a special exception because we've seen her Byakugan and it just seemed to happen super randomly. So has this happened to you, or what? In that none of the characters just flat out say that they don't believe Boruto, but they're like, this is really unusual. That you have to awaken the Byakugan through training and hard work, and it's this thing that you really kind of have to bring out. And so Boruto, they're basically setting up the idea that Boruto, even though he's skilled, has that skill primarily because he's kind of somewhat of a prodigy. Not that he's had to do a ton of work to get to that point. Which has been an interesting thing, in that these early Boruto episodes have basically established that Boruto has some really good ideals and is fundamentally an interesting character. He's not just this kind of brat type character, but they're definitely establishing that on the more negative side of things with him, he doesn't really emphasize hard work all that much, and he doesn't know what it means to have to do hard work. And so when Naruto says, "I know more than anyone that hard work is required and that you haven't done that sort of training," that's very much alluding to the Boruto movie, where this is what Boruto learns in that movie, is the importance of hard work. So the question obviously is that really his kind of Byakugan Tenseigan powers, whichever way you want to view it, aren't really referenced in any of the other material that we've had so far. So this is a very unique kind of thing that's happening here, in that, are they going to take this power away from him temporarily before everyone realizes he has it, before he can convince anyone, and then later on it will come back? Or is this going to be a huge aspect of the Boruto series in the lead up to the movie, that everyone's aware that Boruto has it, but he just has no control over when exactly the Tenseigan actually activates? because he has this dream. He has the dream where Toneri, who we see at the start of the episode from Naruto the Last Movie, Toneri Otsutsuki, talks to him in a dream and basically says that that eye is the key to finding the light that will extinguish this darkness that is soon to come, and they're kind of referencing the fact that what's happening in the village right now, the shadows taking over people, is this darkness, but that there is a greater threat of it appearing, and Boruto is going to be key to doing that. So I'm kind of wondering, are they going to do some sort of a situation where Boruto uses the power of this eye to take out the darkness temporarily and then rediscovers the power at a later stage, or what? Because where they go from here with it is obviously that Boruto decides that, oh, I've basically been given this massive destiny. He wakes up, looks at in a mirror, and sees that he has the eye. So he finally sees what his eye looks like when he has the power, and it confirms to him that he is somewhat special. And he begins to act like he's this kind of destined, that character from the movie, basically, who talked like that. And it was really funny in that, Himawari is the first person to, see him like that. But then, Hinata's like, Boruto's been acting weird, and everyone looks at Boruto going on one of these speeches, and they're all really weirded out by it. But the result is that they decide that Hiyashi, Boruto's grandfather, is the one who has to basically determine if he has the Byakugan or not. And so basically the Naruto, Himawari, and Boruto head down to visit, Hiyashi. And it's really fun because they set him up that they're not, Boruto especially is not happy about visiting him. But when they get there, Hiyashi is just so excited to see his grandchildren and just hugs them and is really, really nice to them, and Himawari really likes him, and Boruto's just please stop hugging me, but there doesn't seem to be any issue. Then we see Hanabi here, and she has a moment like that as their aunt, and it was just a really fun to get to see all these characters interacting, and that at this stage Hanabi is Naruto's sister, basically. Naruto now has a father in his life, and to see him call Hiyashi father was really, really interesting. And to see them give him the respect as Hokage, really, really cool to see that Naruto is basically part of the Hyuga clan now, and how they kind of showed that properly here for one of the first times was very, very interesting to see, just the interactions, and that Naruto and Hanabi seem to get on really well. The kids like Hanabi, the kids more or less like Hiyashi. The result, though, is basically that Hiyashi, right now at least, basically just relays the same stuff, that you have to awaken it through hard work and determination. It's a Kekkei Genkai, and if you have the ability, you can awaken it, but not everyone awakens it. And then even the people who do awaken it, they don't always master it. So do you think you are one of these people? And so we end the episode with the idea that Hiyashi is going to fight Boruto to try and force this kind of ability to activate itself. Now, obviously, the key thing here is that we as the audience know that it's realistically not the Byakugan, and it probably is the Tenseigan, hence the use of Toneri Otsutsuki, because the Tenseigan was introduced in the movie he was introduced in. But they're not really aware of that. They're not thinking about that as a potential ability that someone could have. So the question obviously becomes, when does everyone finally realize that Boruto has this power? Does it stay? Is this a lasting thing that he has? Or is this just a kind of, you have this power for the first arc type situation? But either way, it confirms, you apply this plus some of the stuff we recently learned in the Boruto manga, and Boruto has this connection with Otsutsuki members that seems really, really apparent that they're going for. Yeah, just an overall, I think, very, very solid episode. Getting to see a lot of fun, cute moments with Himawari, with Hanabi, even with Hiyashi interacting with the family. Getting to see Naruto's kind of more goofy side, but also, still setting up, alluding to the fact that kind of issues are still present up until the Boruto movie. And so, the question still remains, once we get a good bit into Boruto, how are we actually tackling the Boruto movie event? Because it's so integral to kind of Boruto as a character, I feel like the anime they can't just skip what happened there. Maybe it will, but it it feels weird if they don't do that, or at the very least don't do some sort of a kind of clip show type episode where they cover the basics of what happened in it? Or will they just do an anime adaptation of the movie? I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like such an important thing to get Boruto from this point to the next that they kind of have to do it. Skipping past it and just covering the manga stuff immediately afterwards, I can sort of see them doing that, but again, it's such an important kind of moment. How do you really do that? Because it's like the meeting of Sasuke and Boruto and stuff like that. So, you know, will they do other ones? Like, obviously there's the kind of Gaiden, the Scarlet Spring kind of arc where Sarada awakens her Sharingan. Given the focus on Boruto here and his eye power, I really feel that they are adapting that. They are absolutely going to adapt that manga, the Naruto Gaiden, to cover the Sarada stuff with her father. I think they kind of, at this stage, have to do that because Sarada, at this stage, doesn't have the Sharingan, and that's such an important part of her character that they need to actually cover that event happening, and it has some notable moments in it as well. So yeah, it seems like there's a lot of potential with the anime in terms of where it's going. It's a little slow. I will definitely agree with that with the pacing, but I'm excited with where things are going. I like the use of like a lot of the characters that we know of, seeing them in their kind of older designs and so on, and getting to see this Boruto Hanabi interactions that look like they're going to happen next episode. Boruto Hiyashi, and just in general how they're going to approach Boruto's powers, and is it eventually going to be this case where everyone calls Boruto a liar and he's just going to be unable to convince anyone of what's actually happening here. Either way, exciting stuff is happening. I think the Boruto anime started off exceptionally well, and it looks like it's going to continue to be really, really interesting. So I'm happy, but in the comments let me know what your thoughts were on this episode as well as the review. But yeah, that's been the video for today. Thanks for watching, and bye.